one thing I'm gonna do, man. I'm gonna point the kids in the right direction. You know, student government.
Do the Right Thing of DC presents Teen Speak, the Teen New Deal. Youth Solutions for Racism, Violence, and Economic Inequity. A youth town hall. What is the Teen New Deal? Well, it's a book with a 12-step plan inside to get American students paid to go to school with digital currency. The money students earn would go to their parents. The younger the student is, the more access parents would have. And as the student gets older, parent access decreases. Nationwide student government associations and school-based media would be mandatory to help student leaders demonstrate financial literacy, organization, and communication. The Teen New Deal project is focused on achieving federal legislation to implement nationwide student pay, student government, and student media by 2026 as a gift for America's 250th birthday. Let's listen now to youth in Washington, D.C.'s Marion Barry Summer Youth Employment Program as they talk about how these solutions could help address issues like racism, violence, and economic inequity. Please welcome your Teen Speak hosts, Mr. G. Sidney Norday and Ms. Leslie Gould.
All right. Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to day 2 of Teen Speak, the Teen New Deal, a youth town hall presenting solutions for racism, violence, and economic inequity. I am G. Sidney Norday. I'm an educator, an author, a native of Washington, D.C., and one of the co-founders of Do the Right Thing of D.C. I'm so glad to be back for day 2 of our 3-day virtual event and to listen to our amazing young people, our amazing young teenagers, as they give voice to some really interesting ideas about education, including financial literacy, as well as government and media literacy as well. And please welcome my co-host as well, Ms. Leslie Gould. Leslie.
Good morning and welcome back, everyone. I'm Leslie Gould, and I am a lawyer. I'm a prosecutor, former prosecutor after 15 years. And I am so excited to be here on day 2 with you, Mr. Norday, and participating and listening to the children and listening to our youths and hearing about their ideas about what they have to say about these really important issues and how we're going to transform our community, our country, and then, Mr. Norday, the world. Okay, we're on a mission.
We can do it, Leslie. Yes, great to be back with you again. Thank you so much. And you know, it's all about our young people and their voices. So we'll be joined in our hosting duties by 3 teen hosts from right here in the nation's capital. Leslie, let's meet them again now.
Yes. Okay, please. Angelina Smith is our first teen host. Angelina, please introduce yourself again and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Angelina Smith. I'm 17 years old, a student at Blue High School. I'm model for a brand name Shane, and I'm also a young mother, which is why I'm excited to be moderating the first segment about student pay with digital currency.
Thank you. Welcome back. I love that you're here. Our second teen host is Jonathan Steele. Jonathan?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Gould. Hi, everyone. My name is Jonathan Steele. I attend Ballou Senior High School. I'm a band member there, and I'll be moderating for segment 2, Solution to Mandatory Student Government, so that students can learn how to vote in school.
All right, student government. Love that component as well.
Yes, hello, Jonathan.
Yes, and our our third teen host is Shannon Bradshaw. Shannon.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shannon Bradshaw. I'm 17 years old, a student at Ballou High School, and I love photography. And I will be moderating the third segment about closed circuit school media. That's TV, internet, and social media, just for students at school.
Wow. Well, thank you, Ms. Leslie, for introducing our teen hosts. Thank you, Shannon. Well, there are 3 teen hosts, all of Ballou Knights from Ballou Senior High School here in D.C. We're so glad to have you all with us again to help moderate this discussion with our youth panelists. And listen, we heard some really good points by our youth panelists and our teen hosts yesterday. So I can't wait to hear what they're going to say today about those segment topics: student pay, student government, and student media. social media at schools for the teenagers. That's going to be interesting, right?
Right. And, in addition to listening to our youth, we had some very key guests, adult guest panelists yesterday, Mr.
Yes,
Nerde, and
absolutely.
they were definitely supportive of each of our components and even had, definitely some good ideas to contribute as well. So we're going
Yes.
to have some additional guest panelists today, adults. So looking forward to hearing their feedback.
Absolutely, Leslie. Yes, we were joined yesterday by Ms. Denise Rollard Barnes. That was surprising, but it was an honor to have her here, the publisher of the Washington Informer newspaper that's been in the nation's capital for nearly 6 decades. Who else did we have? I'm just drawing a blank. We had Sister Africa Porter and William Dalton, a dean of students from Chicago, Illinois. They joined us as well. Excuse me, the assistant chief of police from Washington, D.C. Yes. Assistant Chief Pamela Wheeler Taylor was here with us, and they had some incredible feedback. And the assistant chief of police is also a Ballou Knight, an alum of Ballou High School. So she was excited to see our 3 teen hosts here from Ballou as well. So yes, great guests yesterday, and today we have some great guests as well. And in addition to that, right, we're trying to keep things interesting for our young people, our young audience. So please stay tuned. During segment 2, we're going to again showcase a really special music video presentation by a very special artist, producer, and politically involved musical activist. His name is Tone P. You won't want to miss it. That's going to be very exciting. So we're glad to see that again. But let's go ahead and get things started with segment 1, student pay. Angelina, she's going to have some youth panelists joining us now. Angelina, please go ahead, take it away.
Welcome to segment 1, Solution 1, Student Pay with Digital Currency and Parent Access to Student Earnings. Keep in mind that when we say parent access to student earnings, according to the Teen New Deal, it will be based on the age of the student. The younger the student is, the more access the parents will have to help their child spend, save, and invest. We're going to begin the segment with a video poem in honor of the Teen New Deal, and this actually features one of my fellow teen co-hosts, This Is a Change Now by Shannon Bradshaw.
I want our black teens, white teens, all teens going to school. Let's show these adults the young people are the tool. A Teen New Deal will help us do it. We can prove it. Earning incentives should be included. We'll be making money every week, just do it. Let's deep dive into solving racism, hate, and crime. All people can be equalized. Let students earn money at school and we can do more than survive. We will thrive. It's 2022, the pandemic is conquered. When we still alive. Diversity is the bigger picture in God's hands. Peel your own image from the mirror and wear it every day. Keep your head held high. A solution is the only way. Young people are gifted, persevere. But let's face it, we still getting shot at school. We still can't vote at school. Killed over and over by the law. I can't stall no longer. This can't go on any longer. Something needs to change. Aim for a Teen New Deal.
Wow, great video and great poem, Shannon. Sounds like somebody is really into the idea of student pay and student media, right? Okay.
Right, exactly.
From our youth panelists. Leif, I don't know if they're here yet.
Angelina, you know what? I think we might have a technical difficulty. Oh, okay. Excuse me. There he is right there. I think we have, while they're joining us now. Go ahead, Angelina.
Okay. Let's start with Leif and Brian. Leif, how old are you and why do you support student pay?
Leif.
Okay, Leif, I think your mic might be muted. I'm not sure if he can hear us. We can't hear you, Leif. So Angelina, maybe we can figure out his audio issue. Angelina, who do we have next?
We have Brian next. He's going to be talking about increasing credit scores and more parents involved at school. So you can take that away, Brian.
Hi, I'm Brian Brown, full team. I support the student pay with digital currency and parent access to earnings because it increases the credit scores of youth and parents. What I mean is building up your credit score while you're young can have benefits in the future, such as being able to buy houses and cars or better houses and cars in general.
Wow, imagine building your credit score now to help you financially in the future.
Yes, thank you, Angelina. That's a crucial component. Thank you for mentioning that. Right on. Who do we have next, Angelina?
Next, we have Asia. She wants to talk about rewarding good behavior with incentives. You can take it away, Asia.
Hi. I believe students should get paid as an incentive to do better. It would allow students who go to school year without the things that they need.
Yes, that's important for the students to be able to get everything that they need with the incentives. Esinom wants to also talk about rewarding good behavior. How old are you and why do you support Esinom?
I'm 15 years old and I support student pay because students like me want to be rewarded for doing well in school and showing good behavior. Um, student pay will allow students to earn money as a student and earn skills from doing better and doing better as a student to earn that money and also take those into adulthood.
Yes, I agree, Esinom. It looks like we have Leif back. So Leif also wants to talk about helping families and increasing financial literacy. You can take it away now, Leif.
Um, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm 15 and I support student pay with digital currency and parent access to earnings because it will help parents that are struggling to support their children, so that students don't have to go out and stress trying to get money to help out their parents, and also it will increase financial literacy within children, which means that they will understand the value of money and how to use it responsibly.
Yes, I agree. It's important for the students to start learning the value of money and using it right. Next, we have Imani talking about increasing financial literacy and also helping families. How old are you, Imani, and why do you support?
I support student pay with digital currency and parent access because it can increase financial literacy among teens and adults by helping us make better financial decisions and making us get what we need. Making us prioritize what we need and not what we want. Also, because it can contribute to families by helping us pay for school clothes and school supplies that we may need year round.
Ooh, yes, Imani. I like how you said it to help the kids prioritize needs over wants so that they can learn how to use their money responsibly.
Yes.
Today,
I'm sorry, Angelina, what did you say?
I was asking if we had Devin today.
You know what? I don't think Devin is in the. Oh, you know what?
Oh, there he
Through the
is.
magic of media.
Okay. Lastly, we have Devin, who's going to be talking about helping families and making digital currency legit. So, how old are you, Devin? And can we hear more?
I'm 16, and I believe in student pay with digital currency because not only can it take some press off my parents' back with the resources I need for school, it'll lead to making currency legit and quickly transform society.
Wow, Angelina, that is a great point that he made, right? Everybody is trying to get in on this digital currency kick. And I believe I just heard maybe about a month ago that it took a big crash because we don't have enough people using it properly. So Devin, that is an amazing point. If we started paying young people at school, and there's about 50 million American students at school, that's like bigger than a medium-sized country. So we started paying students with digital currency, that would make it more normal, right? We could legitimize it. Great point. Absolutely. And I love also too, Angelina, how they said contribute to families, because
Yeah.
Miss Leslie, we've all heard about this monkeypox outbreak, right? And it's getting people concerned about there might be another shutdown like there was with the pandemic. I don't know. I know the numbers are going up. But if we have to get into another situation where businesses shut down, parents have to stay home or they can't work, if we could keep paying students, if we could keep them in business online, going to school and pay them for their online work, they can share those earnings with their families, right? So I
Of
love
course.
to contribute to families, right?
Yes, because like S&M said, children want, the youth, they want to be rewarded and they want to be incentivized. They want to earn, they want to be
Yes.
compensated. So we're definitely having the right type of discussions, Mr. Norday.
Very timely. Well, Angelina, thank you so much for hosting that segment. Is there anything you wanted to say about student pay with digital currency? I know you mentioned you're a young mom, so you're really into this idea of students being paid to go to school, passing on those earnings to their family members or their parents. What do you have to say about student pay?
Well, I also think that the student pay could help solve the Social Security issue, because since there are more older people than young people, if we take the tax out of the kids' paychecks by paying them to go to school, it can help solve it. And then we can start paying the Social Security.
You know what? She is really thinking far ahead of the curve, because Social Security is something that myself and Miss Leslie need to worry about, okay? And our retirement, but I'm glad you're thinking about retirement, because you need to start planning now, right? And they're saying Social Security could fail within the next 10 years. That means it wouldn't even be helping myself and Miss Leslie. So that's a crucial component. Miss Leslie, wow, did you hear her? That is amazing.
I know. And not only us, Mr. Norday, but also our adult guest panelists, I would think, this is a concern for them as well. So I'm interested in hearing what they have to say about this.
Right. We need a solution for this Social Security fast. Let's take a look. And we also want to see if there are any chat comments from any of our youth or adults that may be watching. We do have some of our youth panelists that are still in our Do the Right Thing virtual environment, so they could chat as well. I see there Paris Brown, Shabria Butler says she supports student pay because it takes care of family needs. So she's also reiterating some of our youth panel here today.
Because that's such an important, necessary solution or needed.
Right. And then Vashayla says she supports student pay because it would encourage more kids to be active in school, right? Of course, absolutely. It'd probably help out with attendance rates immediately. But they would be more involved in whatever activities that they could be incentivized to participate in at school. And finally, Deandra says she supports student pay because students shouldn't have to always ask their parents for things, right? It will make them feel more independent, and that would go to their maturity level and being responsible. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And thank you, Angelina, as well for that final comment about fixing Social Security. Let's go to our adult guest panelists here. Mr. Paul Kine, he's the Deputy Mayor for Education here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for being with us, Mr. Kine. Can you tell us a little bit about your background as far as being the Deputy Mayor for Education, and what do you think about this idea of paying students to go to school, just period, and then also with the digital currency and having the parents be able to access those earnings? Thank you for being here too.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this wonderful panel. And it is so good to hear from students and to learn from you all and to hear your insights. So thanks to the Baloo panelists. It's wonderful to see you. As the Deputy Mayor for Education, I help on behalf of the mayor to oversee both the public school system and the workforce training system in the District of Columbia. And I'm very, very interested in this topic of paying students to attend school, to get certification and so on. And currently in the District of Columbia, we actually have a number of initiatives that do just that. We believe that there are many young people in the city, as we've just heard from the panelists, who actually need to work and need to earn income. And we have stood up a number of so-called earn and learn programs, some on the workforce side through the Department of Employment Services and our Workforce Investment Council, some through OSSI, our state education agency. But importantly, also, we have actually coupled learning opportunities through the summer youth employment program. So there are now opportunities across the city for students to go and get really valuable work experience and job experience and get paid for that, but also to do some summer catch-up and summer learning acceleration. So I think we have good precedent for that.
All right, thank you so much. Now, and I've heard about the Earn and Learn, and so to put it in context, I would say that the nation's capital is kind of probably ahead of the curve as far as other cities around America, and just kind of setting that example, setting that standard. And so I guess what the young people are talking about, and thank you for mentioning the Summer Youth Employment Program, because that's where our youth panel is from today, aside from our teen hosts at Ballou High School. They're all in the Marion Barry Summer Youth Employment Program. And so I guess what they're really talking about is, getting paid with digital currency, letting the parents have access. What they're talking about is just summer youth employment, but I guess they're just talking about youth employment and taking it from the summertime and try to expanding it all year round. And so what do you think about, can we just get your thoughts on, this idea of, paying all students year round, not for just the work that they do in the summertime at these host sites like Do the Right Thing, but getting paid at school for school-based activities, not just even academic labor, but we've been talking about, Mr. Kine, moral labor or kind of behavior or citizenship labor. So students being compensated at school, not just for the math and science, academic side of it, but also for their behavior, their citizenship side, the volunteer aspect, and then funneling those monies to the parent. Can we get your take on that? And I know this maybe that's obviously a new idea, and I've never, we haven't talked about things like that before in the society. And I know that young people do contribute at home through the Summer Youth Employment Program, but we're envisioning kind of a system where it would all be electronic or digital. The students would be getting paid digital currency, so they would just be monitoring these earnings online. And then these earnings could kind of go into their parents' bank accounts based on the student age. So the younger a student is, the more of their money the parent would have access to. And as the student gets older, the parent access would kind of decrease. Can we get your thoughts on that? And then we'll move on to segment 2.
Absolutely, and thank you so much. I was very interested to read in advance the idea and to now hear from the students and to get your summary as well. And I will share, in the spirit of discussion, that I have I'll describe it as a healthy skepticism about this, as I think one will encounter with any new ideas. And my skepticism is based on a couple of things. Firstly, as you will know very well, Mr. Norday, there have been experiments of paying young people for attending school. In fact, there's a famous project in New York City from about 10 or 15 years ago that basically gave students, in some cases cash, but in other cases iPods at that time, for attendance. And it did not prove to have any effect on attendance, interestingly. So the idea that this will somehow serve to promote more attendance and better attendance and engagement, I don't think has borne out in the research that has been done on this as an idea. And that's very limited, and my knowledge of that is very limited. So I'm sure you looked closely at that as you have been developing this. So that's one point. The second point is, I also do believe that there is a time and place for young people to be learning and not be compensated for that learning, in the sense that, we have moved, we've moved far away from what we'll call child labor and children needing to earn an income on behalf of their families in this country for many, many good reasons. And I think I would be very cautious about considering ways in which we might be moving back to something like that, where you'd have parents or families believing that their children are responsible for, and particularly young children, responsible for helping to contribute to the family's income in ways that might have unintended consequences. So I think it's a wonderful idea to be kicking around and to be considering. I think I love the innovative thinking, and I enjoyed hearing from the panelists, but as I said, I would have a healthy skepticism based on those reasons.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? Our Assistant Chief of Police, who joined us yesterday, said this will obviously be a heavy lift. Okay. So yes, thank you for the healthy skepticism, because this is something that, we have not done before. And so, obviously in encountering any new endeavor, we want to make sure that, all bases are covered and look at the past just to make sure that we're going into the proper future. Thank you for that. Okay, well, that's it for segment 1. Please stay tuned for segment 2, because we have a really special music video presentation at the top of the segment about nationwide student government. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. All right, we'll be right back with segment 2.
We gotta teach these kids how the country functions before they out on their own. Shout out to Gerald Norday, Lolo, do the right thing. Carla, Eugenia, what up?
I heard this was America, home of the free first, home of the brave next. Reality can hurt, cause when you wake up, every day we face it. Too many with their heads down, too many too complacent. If kids are the future, let's give the kids a voice. We're making some decisions and amplify the choice. And turn in between, we boost their self-esteem. So when they grow up, they know what government means. The policy schemes, the political functions. Cause when I grew up, those builders didn't mean nothing. How could those builders mean nothing? Product of environment, we gotta shake something. We gotta make change, it's really getting old. Cause kids killing kids, but you're killing mama's soul. And all this red line, it can make it hard to vote. We can't make excuses, we cannot lose control. So listen up, people, today it starts now. The new youth movement, this is how we get it down. Here in DC, we do the right thing. And now I'm Tone P, now everybody come and sing. It's the Teen New Deal. It's the Teen New Deal. It's the Teen New Deal. It's the Teen New Deal.
Well, welcome back. Welcome back to Teen Speak, the Teen New Deal. We just really heard some really great points from and some feedback from our youth, and also a different point of view from Mr. Kine and segment 1. And this is a conversation that will always be evolving, especially since we know about our college athletes. At first, they were even told there was a position, NCAA said, no, you will never be compensated for your performance or your service as an athlete at school. But we know that that's not the case. And it's actually been legislated in a number of states, over 27 states, I believe. So this is a conversation.
I would expect that point from a lawyer, our legal eagle. Thank you, Ms. Gould. Absolutely good point.
Well, it's always both sides, and that's how we get to our final solution. That's what we're doing here and creating. And so we're moving on to our next segment, segment 2, and our teen host, Jonathan Steele, will be moderating. So, Jonathan?
Yes, I think Jonathan will be joining us momentarily, and there he is.
He's here. All right, take it away, Jonathan.
Thank you. Welcome to segment 2, Solution 2, Mandatory Student Government Associations nationwide. I'm happy to announce that we're going to start the segment with a special music video presentation. Tone P is an artist first and foremost, plus an award-winning multi-platinum record producer, working with Grammy-nominated artists such as Chris Brown, J. Cole, Jhené Aiko, Rick Ross, 2 Chainz, and more. Tone P is also a musical activist, credited with being one of the founders of the Don't Mute DC Go-Go movement, DC movement, which has been successful in countering corporate efforts to silence DC's iconic and original go-go sound. Here now with the musical anthem for the Teen New Deal movement and push for mandatory student government. Tone P, take it away.
And here are options for end of the year trip: History Museum, virtual library tour, and the winner is National Arboretum. Isn't that wonderful?
Don't nobody want to go see some scenes? We want to go to the club and get lit.
No, Dad, you whack.
You
stop trying to silence us. We students and we need to be heard.
We need to vote about this. This is why we need student government. Yeah, what she said.
Mute. These students need to mute. Where's the mute button? Mute.
Yeah, if it's one thing I'm gonna do, man, I'm gonna point the kids in the right direction. Student government. We gotta teach these kids how the country functions before they out on their own. Shout out to Gerald Norday, Lolo, do the right thing. Carla, Eugenia, what up?
I heard this was America, home of the free first, home of the brave next. Reality can hurt, cause when you wake up, every day we face it. Too many with their heads down, too many too complacent. If kids are the future, let's give the kids a voice. We're making some decisions that amplify the choice. And turn in between, and boost their self-esteem. So when they grow up, they know what government means. The policy schemes, the political functions. Cause when I grew up, those buildings didn't mean nothing. How could those buildings mean nothing? Product of environment, we gotta shake something. We gotta make change, it's really getting old. Cause kids killing kids, but you're killing mama's soul. And all this red line, it can make it hard to vote. We can't make excuses, we cannot lose control. So listen up, people, today it starts now. The new youth movement, this is how we get it down. Here in DC, we do the right thing. And I'm Tone P, now everybody come and sing. It's the Teen New Deal. 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 It's the Teen New. Come on, everybody say the Teen New Deal. The deal is real. Let the kids go to school and watch the country heal. Come on, say the Teen New Deal. The deal is real. Let the kids go to school and watch the country heal. That's right.
That's right, do the right thing. Linking up with Tone P, and we DC, shout out to PG, it's the home of the go-go, nation's capital, and now you know so.
Yeah.
That was a music video presentation from Tone P. Wow, that is powerful. Did you hear that lyric? Kids killing
Yes.
kids, killing moms.
Yes.
Oh, it's a heartbreaking lyric, but I mean, hey, it has to be said, right? Thank you. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Thank you, Mr. Norday. Since Tone P is a musical activist on the political side of the music industry, he is an amazing voice to add to the Teen New Deal movement. Okay, let's hear what our youth panelists have to say about the idea of mandatory student government nationwide. Let's start with Devin. Devin, you support student government so it can because it's a step in creating student pay. Let's hear more about that.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe in student pay. Well, not student pay. I believe in student government because I think it'll help us students get involved with what's going on in school. Kind of like choosing what field trip we want to go on next, and maybe choosing what food we want to eat throughout the year.
Devin, I really support that reason. It's very important to get involved in what goes on in your community and your school, and I'm behind that. So,
you know what? As well, I'm glad he mentioned that issue about food. You know, picking a better school lunch because that's really on the top of everybody's list at school, right? That's why kids bring their own lunch, and we know that Michelle Obama, the first lady, that was really top on her list, making sure students had healthy, delicious food options. So, Devin, thank you for carrying that torch on that First Lady Michelle Obama initiated. Thank you. Okay, Jonathan, who else do we have?
Thank you, Mr. Norday. I believe next we have Leif. Leif, you support mandatory student government due to it can help practice voting. Can we hear more about that?
Yes, I absolutely believe we should have mandatory student government because it will help students practice the vote. So when they get old and have to vote on the leaders of our country, they'll have the knowledge to do so, and they'll already be well versed in like how to vote, and they'll be comfortable with it. So there will be more voters in time.
Yes, that is a really good reason. It's important to become well educated on matters such as this so that later on you know what you're doing. And I believe our next student panelist is going to be Imani. Imani, why do you support mandatory student government?
I think students should be required to participate in student government because it allows them to practice voting, and later on in life this will be essential because it will help us elect the next president, and it will help us gain more independence and also cause us to have a voice.
Imani, I really support that reason. It's very important to have a voice for your opinions to be heard, especially when electing a leader such as the president. And it's important to know who you're voting for and why. and know what you're doing so you don't get pressured into voting for somebody who's not going to help you at all. I believe our next student panelist is going to be Brian. Brian, why do you support mandatory student government?
I'm 14. I definitely believe we should have mandatory student government because it's the first step in getting students paid. What I mean is, student government leaders will set an example on how students should spend their money. But of course, student government leaders might make mistakes sometimes because, not everybody is going to have the right mindset when using that money. But everyone makes mistakes, and, they can always get back on track with setting examples on how to use the money.
Wow. You know what, Jonathan, if I could jump in there, I'm so glad that Brian mentioned that the student government leaders are going to make mistakes, because not only do the rest of the students need to see the student government leaders making smart decisions with their money, they also need to watch the student government leaders, how they handle the mistakes, because that's really sometimes what defines people. It's not just the accomplishments and the good things they do, it's how they handle mistakes that they make. So we will want to see student government leaders taking responsibility for the mistakes that they make and all of their actions. And so the other students, the rest of the student body could learn from the mistakes of the student government leaders. So it would be good all around for student government to be set up first, like Brian said, so that the other young people can learn from them and their how they handle the money. Jonathan, who else do we have?
I believe next we have is Esanam and then Asia. Esanam, why do you support mandatory student government?
I absolutely support the student government is because student government handles the money for events, improvement to the school, and distributing money, meaning that the student government needs to be established first before student pay is in operation. The leaders of student government need financial literacy to better understand how to handle money and learn financial skills to gain more knowledge on how to invest and be successful as a government.
Wonderfully spoken and put together. I couldn't have said it better myself. It's very important to learn how to be financially responsible and to better organize and to handle your money so that you can be more productive with it. And Asia, so why do you support mandatory student government?
I believe we should have student government because it would give students an opportunity to collectively voice their opinion on the things inside and outside of our schools.
Wonderful, wonderfully put together, Mr. Norday. You have anything to say about that?
Yes, Jonathan, you're funny. I love what Asia just said about young people collectively expressing their voice. You know, if you were just, it's like having multiple siblings at home, right? If you got a bunch of brothers and sisters and you're the only one speaking up about something, maybe your parents don't want to listen to you that much. But if you and all your brothers and sisters are saying, this is what we want to do for family vacation, or this is where we want to go for dinner on Friday night, your parents may be more willing to listen. We have 50 million young people in America under age 18. If tens of millions of young people are expressing their voice together, collectively, like Asia said, well, maybe adults will start to listen. Now, obviously, we have a tragic situation going on with gun violence inside of the schools. I mean, it's absolutely horrendous. And so if young people were at schools and could collectively express their voice through student government about some of these solutions, maybe security solutions, you know, maybe it would just make them feel more confident and at ease about going to school. Right, Leslie? What do you think about that? I know some students are, you know, they're scared to go to school right now and they don't have a voice.
Right. And having a voting is having a voice. Okay. And what we're even facing currently in our nation, I mean, over 47 states, local government have given bills to submitted bills to have voter restriction, to tighten our voter restriction. And this has been an issue for marginalized communities. So if we can actually have a component of student government where we are giving the civic lessons, we are showing the importance of voting, we are giving the students an opportunity to see what their voice looks like after we are adults listen to them and make them a part of the decision making process. I mean, it can only become better as they get older and become adults themselves, So this is such an important component. I mean, even in our video, when the students were talking about, we wanted to vote as far as our end of the year trip. Okay, we needed to have a voice into where we were going, and this is why this is so important, and voting is so important, and especially right now in our nation.
Absolutely. Well, let's hear from some of our adult panelists that are guests with us today. We're got about 15 minutes left in our broadcast. And I believe we've just been also joined by Miss Andrea Thomas, the president and CEO of UPO. So she's here as well. And if I could just create an introduction as well. We also have the Deputy Mayor for Education, Paul Kine, Mr. Paul Kine with us. So we just heard the young people talk about having mandatory student government available at all schools nationwide so they can at least begin to practice the voting process just on school-based issues, school lunch, school uniforms, trips, and also school security. Can we get you all's thoughts? And Ms. Andrea, if you wanted to give us a little background as well, thank you for joining us. Can we get you all's thoughts on this idea of having student government mandatory in all schools, I suppose at least at the high school level, so that young people can start practice voting so they can be more conditioned to vote later on?
Sure.
Sure, absolutely. Please go ahead. Mr. Paul Kine has had a chance during our last segment, and thank you for joining us. So yes, please, you can go ahead and start.
Sure. So as you said, I'm Andrea Thomas, Service President and CEO here at United Planning Organization for the past 3 years, but was here in the Vice President role, and before that working with the Youth Division here in the agency. I certainly find this very exciting. And the young people said something, a couple things, but I want to pull out that they focused on this empowerment, this ability to vote and to sway what will be happening during the school day. And I think coupled that with, or that being coupled with the education that one of them referenced. And I would then add on practice. So they may not have said it that way, but it's this three-legged stool, right? So this opportunity to help to direct what's happening in their educational process so that they become astute consumers, right, of that education and have voice in that. But it must be done with education. So you referenced Michelle Obama and her trying to bring in the healthy foods. We also know she got a lot of pushback on those healthy foods. So educating our young people, and them also educating themselves on, okay, these decisions that we are making, what is the why of it? Why are we choosing to do these things that we are doing? I think is key. And if I might add, I loved what Essenum, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, said about learning about financial literacy. And what that made me think about was, with a mandatory student government, it is actually touching academics. It's touching English, because they have to be able to articulate what it is they want to see amongst their peers. Civics, history, math, again, managing a budget. I say this as a person who was in student government in high school. It taught me how to manage a meeting as a student body president, how to manage a budget. And so I do see this in the school day and then within the school system, something that could be invaluable. And I'll add this one thing, and then I will stop talking, because I certainly want to hear from Deputy Mayor Kine. I think outside of the school as well, in coaching and teaching our young people to be responsible citizens for the future, the one thing we often hear our politicians talk about is reaching across the aisle. They say it, they don't do it. I do think that young people, however, are ripe and open to reaching out to other young people in other communities that are away from where they are, and having conversations about the state of the nation in a very different way. And I think for the sake of our nation, having young people in leadership positions and engaging with one another, again, across whether it's states, across the city, whatever it may be, I think would bode well for our country for the future. So this not being something that is just relegated to the school setting.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate that feedback. And thank you for validating some of our students. Yes, and her name is Essinam. Very good. Thank you. She's kind of our unofficial union leader for our students at our youth employment site. Mr. Kine, I'll go ahead and kick it to you, Deputy Mayor. What is your thoughts about having this idea of mandatory student government in all schools, or at least mandatory in all high schools?
Thank you. I really appreciate the comments from Ms. Thomas. So thank you for that. I find myself agreeing with that. And of course, with much of what the students have said also. I think two very brief reflections from me. One is, I think that the idea of student government really accomplishes two goals. One is practice in voting, getting people in the habit of voting, helping students learn about the value of voting. And secondly, it really also promotes this idea of leadership, which is what Ms. Thomas was talking about. And I think we have so many leaders who are undervalued, who don't have an opportunity to grow and express themselves and to develop the skills of leadership, because leadership is a set of skills. It's something you have to practice. Some people may seem more adept at it than others, and I think the students we've seen today probably fall into that category. And you have to learn how to be a leader. And I think student government really helps to facilitate that. My second brief reflection, Mr. Naudet, is that we're also talking about student voice, but there's also a dynamic of power involved here. And that's why I think the question of what student governments will have authority over, where they will have real decision-making power, becomes so central. Because it's one thing to give advice, and I think we all could do a lot more of learning from and listening to students and getting really good advice. I know I try to do that in so much of my work and so many of my decisions. It's another to say, actually, students have the right to choose, the right to decide, and actually to invest student governments with specific areas of power. And I think that's important also.
Deputy Mayor, underscore that, because there is this tendency, if we aren't careful, and this is what you noted, giving people position but no real power. And so if we are going to say that there's going to be these student governments and young people are able to make real decisions, that we allow that to happen, right? And it's true full youth participation as we understand it in the youth development realm, and not just something that looks good on paper, but we know behind the scenes, there are adults who are deciding this is actually what we're going to do, and being very clear with them and within the school space, where there may be some lines of demarcation, whether it's for legal reasons or whatever the case may be. And that's just really important, that it isn't just something that's said but not really practiced. So I'm glad that you said that.
Thank you so much for that feedback. Thank you so much for those thoughts. Now, if I could go back to Deputy Mayor Kine, I know we were talking about that student pay issue with digital currency and, putting money into young people's pockets, whether or not the families, have that access. But I'm so glad that some of our youth mentioned that, especially Brian mentioned that we would need that student government first before we have students getting paid to go to school, whether or not their families are involved with those earnings or not. We have to have student government first so we can see a small portion of students handling finances, the student government leaders handling finances in a responsible fashion, and sometimes maybe irresponsibly, so they can demonstrate that financial leadership and literacy to the rest of the student body. So I know there's a healthy dose of skepticism there with that student pay component. But of course, according to the Teen New Deal, we would have student government leaders first, and then pay them first, let them demonstrate that financial literacy, and then we would talk about bringing the rest of the student body in to have them paid. But thank you. That was a great discussion. Thank you so much for that feedback. We're going to go ahead and transition to segment 2. I believe we did have some chat comments, but we're going to go ahead and transition to, segment 3, student media, and we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Cause when I grew up, those builders didn't mean nothing. How could those builders mean nothing? Product of environment, we gotta shake something. We gotta make change, it's really getting old. Cause kids killing kids, which is killing mama's soul. And all this red line, it can make it hard to vote. We can't make excuses, we cannot lose control. So listen up, people, today it starts now. The new youth movement, this is how we get it down. Here in DC, we do the right thing. And now I'm Tone P, now everybody come and sing. It's the Teen New Deal. It's the Teen New Deal. This is the Teen New Deal. It's 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 the Teen New. Come on, everybody say the Teen New Deal. The deal is real. Let the kids go to school and watch the country heal. Come on, say the Teen New Deal. The deal is real. Let the kids go to school and watch the country heal. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Do the right thing. Thinking up with Tone P. And we DC. Shout out to PG. It's the home of the go-go. Nation's capital, and now you know so.
All right, welcome back to Teen Speak, the Teen New Deal, Day 2. We just had a great discussion with some of our amazing young people about mandatory nationwide student government associations and some great feedback from our adult panelists as well. And we also saw an amazing music video presentation, again, by award-winning music producer and activist Tone P. Listen, you guys, we know that school shootings are on the rise, unfortunately, but we need the same to be said about student voices. We need their voices on the rise. We need it elevated. So the conversation about student government mandatory nationwide is definitely not over. But now we're back with segment 3 and our teen host, Shannon Bradshaw, for the third component of the Teen New Deal, that's student media. This should be very interesting. Shannon, take it away.
Thank you. Welcome to segment 3, solution 3, closed circuit school media. A closed circuit means that the television, internet, and social media programming at schools will only be visible to the schools and to the students, administrators, and staff inside the school building. This way, students could be taught how to responsibly use social media. Plus, more entertaining as well as educational programs could be shown that reflect positive images on the students and the communities that they live in. Let's take a look at the promotional video about student media, and we'll be back with the youth panel to discuss it.
Are you a young person, a teenager that doesn't feel represented in the images you see on the internet and television? Would you feel more confident if you could identify with the ages of people you see in media? Sounds like you need a deal, the Teen New Deal. It's a deal offering closed-circuit media, that's television and internet programs just for students at school, giving young people the boost they need. So, go ahead, young Americans, and get your deal today, the Teen New Deal.
You know what? For many years, minority communities have fought for more positive images on television, movies, and in advertising. And we're getting there, but what about young people, kids, and teenagers? We need more positive images too. School media is maybe the way to do it, okay, but well, let's hear what our youth panelists have to say about this idea of closed circuit school media. Let's start with Leif, and then right after Leif, we will have Brian. But Leif, how old are you and why do you support student media? And I see that you talk about student government transparency, so let's hear about that.
Yes, I'm 15 and I support student media because it will provide student government transparency, which will just allow the students to look in on their government and see what they're doing. And also, I was going to say they have engaging educational programs, which are just like that are run by students, and that since they're run by students, other students will want to participate, which will overall increase student participation and performance in school.
Yes, definitely. Great statement. Great statement. Thank you. Our next panelist is Brian. I see that he talks about more engaging educational lessons. So, Brian, let's hear more about that.
Actually, Shannon, I don't think Brian is with us. He might have a technical difficulty, but who else do we have?
I'll start with Devin. I see that Devin talks about increased responsible use of social media, and that's really important for me to know about too. So, Devin, let's hear more about that.
Thank you, and Mr. Paul Kent, thank you for listening. Hope you had a good rest of the day. And honestly, I love the idea of student media. It's something we should have in all schools. It would teach our students on how to use the appropriate language on the internet, and it'll avoid bullying in the future.
Yes, we need more positive people in this world because like everybody depend on social media, so we need more positiveness in the social media base. Okay, our next panelist is Imani, and then our one after as Nam. So Imani, I see that she talks about increased responsible use of social media. So let's hear more about that, Imani.
Hi, I feel like we should have student media because it will allow because it will increase the responsible use of social media. This will help decrease cyberbullying and help spread more love instead of hate.
Yes, we need to spread the word more of Teen New Deal because we need more positivity. I see that you're also talking about more engaging educational lessons. So can I hear more about that?
I believe we should have student media in schools because having our own student media in school would make learning more easier and effective for students and teachers. Teachers can use student media to teach students while students can use it to prevent getting off task and use the apps to do their work or activities to get their work done while still having fun. With more effective lessons, students would have more motivation to work.
Thank you. I'm gonna speak on more of what you was talking about also when I'm finished. Acia, I see that you're talking about student government and transparency and positive programs with the young youth. So let's hear more about that.
Yes, I believe that student media should be in all schools because it is a platform for students to speak their minds and it gives students an opportunity to write to their peers and tell them about the things that they need to be told.
Yes, and definitely we need more adults to hear what we got to say, and that's why we have a hard time on communicating to people because stuff like that.
Yes, Shannon. Well, go ahead and tell us what you were going to say. I think you wanted to build on what Esinon was talking about as far as student media. What are your thoughts about having student media? Because we saw, Shannon, that at the top of the hour, you had that incredible video poem in honor of the Team Deal, and we know that you're into photography as well. So, what are your thoughts on student media?
Us teens, we need to like express ourselves more and stuff like that, and we need to evolve ourselves with people that we can express ourselves to. So I feel like us learning, I feel like we should have more younger teachers because I feel like we can relate to them more because we're closer to them, but not by age, but you know what I mean, by age a little bit. So I feel like if we had younger teachers, I feel like us learning and stuff like that in school would like help us better.
Okay, Miss Leslie, I think Shannon is trying to be what's called PC, politically correct. And
That's right.
the younger teachers, maybe they will be more familiar with the media, the social media, and all of this technology, and maybe they could make more engaging lessons for the young people instead of these old fogies walking around here that don't know how to mute and unmute. Is that what she's saying, Leslie? Miss
I
Leslie?
think so, but in a very kind way.
Mr. Norday, you cool though. You cool. You could be with us on that side.
Okay. Now she's cleaning it up. Okay, perfect.
You're the
Yes.
exception, Mr. Norday,
Yeah.
okay?
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, do we have, I think that was all of our youth panelists, Shannon. Let's go ahead and transition because we are over time. But if our guest, Miss Andrea Thomas, is still here with us, Miss Thomas, would you like to comment? What do you think about this idea of, I guess it would be mandatory school media inside of the schools, TV, internet, and as well social media inside of the schools for young people on a closed circuit, it's being called, just for students and administrators to deal with inside the school?
Communicate with one another. Very interesting. The mandatory part I would find interesting, meaning what does that look like from school to school, right? And how are schools then resourced in different areas to have something like this that is mandatory? So that would be something I'd just be interested to think through. I loved hearing the young people talking about using this medium, one, to avoid bullying. And I thought that was very interesting that that was so top of mind right now, because it is a space where we just see a lot of bullying, and it's impacting the mental health of our young people quite a bit. And so using this medium driven by young people to address some of those things, where everyone looks like they're living this fabulous life. And then I think young people then get this opportunity to say, you know what? No, that isn't the case. It's a snippet of what's happening in the real world, or or moment in time, and I can't let that affect my psyche. So I think being behind the scenes of all of that, I think shifts some of that thinking. And one of the young people, and please forgive me because I should have written down the name, talked about better communication and using these tools, or the closed circuit method, I think requires the young people and the administration to talk to one another quite a bit. And we all see that right now we're so much behind our phones and texting and tweeting, and we aren't always talking to one another. And so I think that to the moderators, is it Shannon? I think it is.
Yes.
To the moderator's point, having this engagement with the teachers, younger teachers who will understand and also be very much using these mediums, whether it's TikTok, whatever it may be. That may be passe, so forgive me, young people.
I don't know either.
But I love the concept again for seeing images that look like them, being creative, and those who are the quote creatives in the school also having this medium to practice while they're young people, and then leverage that in the future for careers or whatever it may be. And then finally, we are living very much in a global economy, and very soon we will have to recognize we're in a global community. And so having that sort of skill set under their belt, I think is just absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you so much for that. I know we're over time, but if I could just get your final thoughts on this last issue, because I know, Ms. Thomas, it all sort of sounds like, the student pay, the student government, the student media, it sounds like, financial literacy, government literacy, and media literacy. But as far as, this book that they've been studying this summer, the Teen New Deal, what we're really talking about is using those three components to really address some of the deeper social issues that we're experiencing, the racism, the violence. And what the young people are saying, what we've been talking about is, I know the most controversial aspect of this is paying students to go to school, with digital currency, letting parents have access to their money. But what we're saying is if we were to pay students for their, their behavior and their work at school, then just like corporations and businesses do, we could then offer the students incentives and rewards to achieve more desirable behaviors, not just in school, but even then out of school into adulthood. And so I know right now we have a lot of adults, they haven't been paid, to go to school. And so I don't want to say it's too late for them, but it might seem like a way to get ahead of the issue with our young people. If we pay them to go to school, offer them incentives and rewards to develop themselves more professionally, more morally upright behaviors at school, and then kind of continue that relationship into their civic engagement as adults, continue to offer them rewards and incentives to just maintain positive behavior. And maybe that would be a potential solution to addressing the racism, the hate, the violence that we have that's more so associated with adults, right? And so we could offer adults incentives and say, and rewards to say, did you avoid a criminal record this year? Reward. Did you avoid getting arrested for a hate crime? Reward. Did you avoid, any type of this violent behavior? Reward. And try to maybe move from a punishment-based or consequential-based society to a rewards-based society. Can you just give us some final thoughts on that? And I know this is, it's all kind of new, but we're just trying to look for some solutions. And I'll just put this last thing on you. The Teen New Deal is talking about achieving legislation for this by the year 2026. And 2026 is going to be America's 250th birthday, 250th anniversary. It's going to be a major milestone. And our assistant chief of police was here yesterday. She said this is going to be a heavy lift. And we agreed with her. But that's why we're trying to focus on this year of 2026 and trying to kind of offer this as a birthday gift to the nation in the form of legislation like the Declaration of Independence, like voting rights, like the Bill of Rights. Can we do something that could be in honor of our country and kind of, make this push toward 2026? But what are your final thoughts on, student pay, this incentivized behavior to kind of move us to a better civic engagement?
So conceptually, I find it interesting. And I would say I would be looking for something like this to be married to also some intrinsic rewards, right? So after school, when you're in the work world, you're paid to produce something. You still got to be nice when you do it, right? So no one's going to pay you to come to work and be nice. You got to be nice and then do it. So I would think about what are the messages, both short and long term, that come from this, so that we're managing the proper expectations for our young people. And then that, again, marrying this or thinking about this with those intrinsic value systems that we want for our young people. I'm doing good because it's good to do good, not because I'm going to always be paid for it. Now, linking this to milestones that you talked about or gave examples of, participating in student government, reaching some milestone along the way, and finding ways to incentivize students in those ways, I think is a very interesting conversation, something that we should have. And I would just say, thinking about how we have that across the nation. And what I mean is how we ensure that we don't deepen inequities, because everybody now is getting this. And if I am a low-income parent and my child has this core of money that's there that I can access, a high-income parent won't need that. And so this child then just has this surplus. And so we don't want to widen inequities with something like this in place. So I think that for me was a thought that came up. It's like, how do we address it in that way? And then also make sure we're putting in those just the intrinsic value and worth of education. And I think part of that, from my opinion, is making sure that the educational space is a space that's exciting and interesting and a place where young people want to be. And I don't think we've always done that, because we're doing it now the way it was done 100, 200 years ago. Someone's up front talking to them, perhaps on the chalkboard.
Right.
And they're doing everything so much faster and differently, and we haven't necessarily kept up with that. So I think that the conversation is one that is really very interesting. And so I think over time, as it's massaged and those elements are teased out, we'll be able to see where does this go in terms of supporting our young people in the school day. So very interesting. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about how you massage this out over the years as we head to 2026.
How we massage this out, Ms. Thomas.
Okay, yes. We want to get everyone involved in the conversation, because I will say this lastly too, Ms. Thomas. None of these ideas are really ours at Do the Right Thing. Student pay, that's not our, we've heard about that before. Right. Student government obviously exists. Student media is flourishing a bit in some schools. And so the digital currency, we did not develop that. I think the most contribution we have is putting together or marrying the student pay with digital currency and trying to make that more legitimate. But to your idea of the intrinsic motivation, I do use incentives as I work with the young people in our summer youth programs, our after school programs. But what I tell them is, I'm not going to keep giving you incentives. okay? Because the real incentive is something else. And I asked them, what is the real incentive for you to achieve better behavior other than these monetary incentives? And they know the real incentive is their own personal and professional growth. And so what I do with incentives, I start off with them and I start holding it back, taking it back, and say, you know, the real incentive is not this money, it's you. So thank you so much for recognizing that. Thank you so much for recognizing our students by name. It's so important that they understand and people acknowledge who they are through these windows, these boxes. So thank you so much for being here with us. We definitely appreciate you. And I just want to say thank you to our teen hosts, all from Ballou High School. Angelina Smith, Jonathan Steele, and Shannon Bradshaw. We love their delivery. We love their moderation, and our youth panelists as well, and our chatters as well. Thank you, Miss Thomas, for being with us again.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone. That's it for day 2 of our virtual Youth Town Hall, Teen Speak, the Teen New Deal. Thank you to my co-host, Ms. Leslie Gould. And please join us tomorrow for our 3rd and final day as more youth and adults get in on the conversation about how student pay, student government, and student media could be the answer we're all looking for.
Yes, and if you would like to learn more about these solutions, please visit us at dotherightthingdc.org, and also grab the book, Teen New Deal, at amazon.com.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and please remember, do the right thing.
Kids in the right direction. You know, student government. We gotta teach these kids how the country functions before they out on their own. Shout out to Gerald Norday, Lolo, do the right thing. Carla, Eugenia, what up?
I heard this was America, home of the free first, home of the brave next. Reality can hurt, cause when you wake up, every day we face it. Too many with their heads down, too many too complacent. If kids are the future, let's give the kids a voice. We're making some decisions and amplify the choice. And turn in between, we boost their self-esteem. So when they grow up, they know what government means. The policy schemes, the political functions. Cause when I grew up, those builders didn't mean nothing. How could those builders mean nothing? Product of environment, we gotta shake something. We gotta make change. It's really getting old. Cause kids